Hello people, compliments of the season. My name is Tola Labi. You're welcome to ProUp Masterclass. Today I'm going to be telling you some things you can do that can help you when you're working with a difficult client. Now, in my 13 years as a graphic designer, I've had quite some amazing clients, and I can say I've had my fair share of what I consider difficult clients. Now, a client can be difficult for various reasons, or there are various things that could make you consider a client as a difficult client. It could be an attitude problem, it could be a payment problem, it could be a client that has a problem with indecision. It might be a communication problem, but there are just various things that could make you think of a client or consider a client as a difficult client. Now, I'm going to be telling you some things you can do that can just make this journey with a difficult client much easier. Some things I've done over the years that have helped me when working with clients I consider difficult. So you want to pay attention to this class. Now, the first thing I'm going to be recommending is getting paid upfront. I cannot overemphasize the importance of getting paid upfront. Now, this doesn't just apply to difficult clients. It just applies to generally to all clients. Getting paid upfront is very important. Now, if you're working with a difficult client, now someone that is difficult when it comes to the work process is probably going to be difficult when it comes to payments too. So you want to get paid upfront. I've said this before, I get paid 70% upfront, and I would advise, if you can get 70%, ask for 70% upfront. I've realized this from experience that the difficult clients are usually the cheap clients. So asking for your money upfront might even save you the stress of working with the client anyway, because the client might not even be willing to pay you what you are demanding. So you might not even need to go into that relationship with the client in the first place. So get paid upfront. If you can get 70%, good. If you can get 50%, not bad. If you can get 100%, but get paid. The second thing I'm going to be advising you to do is to set boundaries. Set boundaries. And when I'm talking about setting boundaries, I'm talking about accessibility. Do not be accessible to your client 24 hours, 7 days a week. A lot of designers make this mistake. They are always accessible to their client at whatever time. A client calls you at 3 a.m., you are picking up your calls to make corrections on a logo you are doing for the client. I think that is really, really unprofessional. A lot of people think if your doors are always open anytime to a client, they are being very professional, but I really don't agree with that. You must set boundaries to when you open business and when you close to business. I have clients call me at times when I'm close to business and I do not pick up their calls. And I call them back the next day and they ask, why did you pick up my call? I was calling you, I called you like 5 times yesterday, and I tell them, look, at this time, I'm closed. So you have to set boundaries. You must always set boundaries. If you are always open to your clients 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, then clients would abuse that privilege. And I've had designers tell me this about clients trying to run their life and calling them at odd hours. You must set boundaries. It's up to you to set boundaries, to let clients know that you have a life outside of work. Let the client know what time you're open to business and what time you close. So you must have that time. It might be 7 o'clock, it might be 9 o'clock, but always set boundaries. Remember, because your client has a sleeping problem doesn't mean you have to inherit a sleeping problem along with the client too. So please set boundaries. Thirdly, check rude or disrespectful language immediately. I once sent a logo to a client for approval by email, and the client emailed me back saying, this is rubbish. And immediately, I replied to the client and said, at Tola Labi Design, we do not design rubbish. We put a lot of time and thought and care into our work, and we do not appreciate you calling our work rubbish. We would like you to refrain from using such language next time. And immediately, he sent me back a reply apologizing for this, and he was never rude or disrespectful throughout our transaction. And this is something you need to enforce when you're in business, especially when you have difficult clients. You have clients use explicit language at you, or raise their voice at you, or just being generally rude or disrespectful. You must check it immediately. Do not wait till the person has done it like 3 or 4 times before, because what you accept, you will get more of, and that sets a tone for your relationship with your client. So you must always check it immediately. If you're talking to a client and you do not like the tone of voice the client is using, or the client is raising their voice at you, you must be able to say it in a professional way, saying, look, I really do not appreciate the way or the tone in which you're talking to me. I do not appreciate this language you're using. You must be open with your client. So check disrespectful or rude language immediately. Now, the next thing I'll be talking about when it comes to working with a difficult client is to stand your ground and have an opinion. This mentality that the client is always right should be taken with a pinch of salt and should be put in perspective. I think the client cannot be always right. You have to remember that you are the professional, and you cannot jump every time the client says jump, or ask the client how high should I jump. You must be able to stand your ground and let the client know your professional opinion, especially when you're in design. Everybody's an expert when it comes to design. Everybody knows how to design, even though they do not know how to design. So everybody's trying to tell you, as a designer, how to do your job. So you must be able to develop an opinion and be able to communicate your opinion, and sometimes stand your ground, be stubborn about your opinion. You have clients trying to take control of projects, and because designers do not air their opinion, they give in to the client's opinion, and the work comes out looking shoddy and not as good, and that's going into your portfolio. So you must be able to stand your ground. I had a client in the past, and I was doing a logo for him, and he kept on asking for revisions, and at a point I felt I'd come up with a solution, an identity solution for the client, and I presented this, and he said, I don't like it, go and work on another option. And I said, no. I said, why don't you like this? And he said, I just don't like it. I said, I cannot work with that. I cannot work with that as an answer, that you just do not like it. And so and he stopped his gun and said he just didn't like it, and I should change it. So the next day, I went to him and I handed back his money, and I said, you know what, if you're not going with this logo and you don't have any good reason, then I'm out of this project. And he was quite shocked, and he said, do you believe in this logo enough to refund my money and say, I said, yes, I do believe in this logo, and my opinion is that this is a good logo. And he said, I would go with it just because you believe in it that much. And this like 6 years later, he's using the logo and he loves the logo. So you must have an opinion. You must be able to sometimes stand your ground, especially if you believe in the quality of work you're doing, you believe in the solution you're preferring. You must be able to stand your ground. I've had clients trying to talk me to do 3 options to them, logo options, and I tell them I do not believe that is the way to go. That is my personal opinion. I only present one option per time. Sometimes we get into an argument for a few minutes, but in the end, I communicate my opinion, and we either work with it or we do not. But you must be able to develop that strength, that inner strength, to communicate your own opinion and to stand your ground. Now, lastly, and you need to pay really close attention to this last point. You must remember that you have the power to fire your client. Just like the client can fire you, you have the right and you have the power to fire your client. If a client is just too difficult and you just are not making any headway with this client, the client is not changing, you've done everything I've told you from the first point to this point where we are right now, and the client is just not changing, then you do have the power to fire your client. I think it's very important that you have peace when you're working on your job. The only thing you can the only way you can get to keep doing what you're doing and to love your job is to be happy when you're doing it. And if a client is not just giving you enough peace for you to be happy while you're doing your work, then I advise you fire your client. I've had clients like that. I think I've had just one client like that I've fired. And this client kept on raising his voice and hanging up on me whenever we were talking, especially when we talk about pricing, and you just hang up the call. And I told him, look, I do not appreciate the way you raise your voice at me, and I really do not appreciate the fact that when I'm talking to you on the phone, you keep hanging up the call when I say something that you do not agree with price wise. I think that's really disrespectful. And he kept doing it, and I just decided I was not working with this guy anymore, and I just stopped working with him for a whole year. He kept calling and sending me text messages, and I never picked his call, and I didn't reply his text messages, and I just decided I was done with this guy. And just I think mid this year, he called me with a number that I didn't have, and I picked up that call, and he told me, he said, I've been trying to call you for the past 1 year, and I told him, look, I had fired you as a client because you were just too difficult a client, and I had no peace working with you. You kept on hanging up on me, and you kept on raising your voice, and I just didn't want to work with you anymore because you were a really difficult client. And he apologized, and I rehired him as my as a client, and I took him back on as a client, and he has been behaving himself ever since then. So you do have a right to fire a client. Like, the client can fire you if you do not meet up to the client's standards or what the client wants. You do have the power and the right to also fire a client. So don't be afraid to use that right you have and that power you have if the client is just too difficult for you to deal with. Hope you've learned quite a lot from this class, and I hope you found this class pretty helpful. Now, the thing is, clients develop different ways to be difficult. People invent different ways to be difficult every day. So if you have an experience or a question about the difficult client you're working with that you feel any of these things that I've proposed would not help with, please leave a comment and let's talk about it. Please remember to share this video and subscribe to our channel. I'll see you in the next class, and have an amazing 2019.